There you go. There you go. Well, we
Yes, sir.
appreciate you joining us today, man. We've been doing this since the pandemic hit, and just talking to our guys. We had one young man on our team because uh, the person on the panel that spoke last 2 nights ago or 3 nights ago would kind of like lock in and pay attention to who was being alert and who was asking questions and who was doing a good job. After the discussion, she offered him a job.
Oh,
So yeah, so these things have been they've been really neat, man, and we're excited today to have you. If you don't mind, can you just give the guys some background on you?
sure, sure. So if I could, before I get going, hold on one sec for me. Close this door. 1 second for me. Thank you, gentlemen. And Coach, thank you for the kind invitation to speak to everybody today. I'm quite excited about it, but I confess that it's my nature to one, be as prepared as I can at all times, and then two, on the other side of that preparation, I can be somewhat of a late bloomer from the perspective of kind of writing out notes and things. But one of the things that I've been blessed with in my life is one, to be mindful of a wide array of different things. And when I was 17 years old, I got introduced to a book that's been a life-changing book for me. It's called Think and Grow Rich. And the writer, the author of that book is a gentleman named Napoleon Hill. It has been, outside of the Bible, probably the most influential book in my life. It's called Think and Grow Rich. So if each of you just take a minute to write that down, there's been a lot of modifications and things added to the book, one of which was a brother named Dennis Kimbrough, who wrote the book Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. I'd probably say that was a little bit more easier to read. And part of the reasons why is, as an African-American, he added the stories or success secrets of Martin Luther King, of Malcolm X, of Reggie Lewis, and a number of other contemporary brothers who've been successful in our lifetime. The original book was inspired by Andrew Carnegie, who challenged Napoleon Hill to take the time to write this book. And if you would write that down, and I challenge any of you to read it, I guarantee you that will make a positive and very meaningful difference in your life. So with that said, Coach, again, thank you for the opportunity to speak to your brothers today. I would like to ask each of you your name. I'm going to write them down and try to remember the name tagged against the pictures who are seen on the screens there. So if for each of you, and I promise you I will share a lot about myself, if you would just quickly take the time for me of giving me your name and where you guys are from.
I'll start. My name is Devin Richmond. I'm from PG County. I'm from Bowie, Maryland.
Okay, Devin, PG County. Okay.
I'm Wayne Bristol Jr. I'm from PG County as well.
So give me the name.
Wayne Bristol Jr. I'm from PG County as well.
Wayne. Okay.
My name is Isaac Suffering. I'm from Atlanta.
Okay.
I'm Kyle Foster. I'm from Newport News, Virginia.
Kyle. Okay. All right.
I'm Cameron Timmons from Ashburn, Virginia.
Cameron. Ashton. Okay.
My name is Khalil Robinson. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina.
Give me the name again.
Khalil Robinson from Columbia,
Khalil.
South Carolina.
Okay. Thank you, Khalil.
Steve Suttle from PG County, Maryland.
Steve, nice to meet you, brother.
Nice to meet you too.
My name is Christian Johnson. I'm from PG County.
Percy.
Christian Johnson.
Christian, I'm sorry. Okay. Nice to meet you as well, brother.
My name is Spencer Hayes. I'm also from PG County.
Spencer. All right. A lot of PG in the house, huh? Okay.
My name is Wayne Richardson from the Caribbean, Anguilla.
Wayne from Anguilla. Okay. I've been to Anguilla a number of times. Nice to meet you, brother.
Nice to meet you too.
Oh, go ahead. My bad.
Who's next? Is that it?
No, Amir, you can go.
And where are you from, Amir?
I'm from Iran.
Iraq. Okay.
Iran.
Iran. Okay. Nice to meet you, brother.
Nice to meet you too.
How you doing? My name's Nate Garvey. I'm from Nanuet, New York. My bad. I'm just driving right now, so I had a GPS. So
No problem. That's Nate.
yes, sir.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Nate.
Nice to meet you.
Who's up next? I think it's one that I missed.
Well, I'm Jake Brown. I'm one of the assistant coaches at Howard. I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Jake Brown, Scranton. All right. I was just up your way not too long ago in the Poconos.
Well, yeah, I'm from Lake Wallenpaupack, but I say Scranton just because.
Okay. All right. That works.
Relevance.
All right.
Tyler Thornton. I'm from I'm assistant coach as well. Tyler Thornton. I'm from the DMV area also.
Tyler. Nice to meet you, Tyler. Yeah. Okay.
And I'm Eric Atkins. I'm one of the assistant coaches as well. I'm from Columbia, Maryland.
Eric, Columbia. All right.
And I'm Quarantine Kenny Blakeney from Washington, D.C.
All right. And Coach, where are you quarantined?
I am up in the Hamptons right now, in Amagansett.
Okay. Got it. Great. Well, thanks again, Coach. I appreciate it. So, gentlemen, over the next however long stretch of time we have, I'd like to share kind of a bit of my life story, share a number of different things that have been important to me that have helped me along the way. I'll share a number of those. And then at the end of it, if any of you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer the questions as best I can. So, Coach, is there anything else you want to cover before we get going?
No, I think we're good, Paxton. This would be awesome. I'm excited to hear your story.
Very good. So one last question before I get started. Did any of you get a chance to, when you knew who I was coming on the call, did any of you actually take the time to read up about me online at all? That's a question to the group. No? All right. Well, let me throw that as a challenge. What's that, sir?
Coach Brown actually, he gives us like a pretty lengthy bio on all our speakers before actually meeting with them. So usually the day before, so everybody has a chance to read up on you before.
Lovely.
On this conference.
Lovely. So one of the things that would not have been in that bio is that I am a avid rabid workout nut, and also a basketball player and a basketball fan. So I was born in 1960 in Compton, California. I started being a Laker fan probably around the age of 4 years old. So for many of you way back as far as 1964, I was started to develop a love for the game of basketball and baseball primarily. And in high school, I played basketball, baseball, and football. So I was a point guard, and still play that role more for half-court games than full court at 59 years old, soon to be 60. And in baseball, I played shortstop, and in football, I was a linebacker. I could play outside, but I love playing the middle. I like physical contact a lot. Have always been good at being able to absorb pain, but more so than absorbing pain, I also really quite enjoy delivering pain. And for football, that was something I really enjoyed probably the most about football, is being able to read things and then deliver hits. I probably do a lot in basketball now. We have a half-court game. If you ever happen to be in DC on Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock, it's called The Pit. And we play to 11 by 1 or 2, have an NBA three-point line, NBA half-court. And we all play for the love of the game. A lot of the guys that play pro basketball in Europe and also G League players come over and play with us on Sunday mornings, and we get pretty serious about it. Everybody loves it. Winner keeps the ball, no takebacks. Like I said, 11 either NBA shot counts for 2 points and 1 point otherwise. And we don't do any soft calls, no whistles. And it's a men's basketball game. So I love the game of basketball. Born in Compton, at 14 years old, I moved to Philadelphia and went to a boarding academy outside the city of Philadelphia in Paxton, Pennsylvania. I've been traveling pretty much ever since. I left home at 14 years old and never lived back at home with my parents after that. So I've been living the life of a grown man for quite some time at a very young age. And what leaving early taught me was being aware of my circumstances at all time, always being mindful of my circumstances, and also that I needed to learn how to depend upon myself. But in as much as I depended on myself, also knowing that I depended on a lot of other people around me. So the concept of team, the concept of family, the concept of building friendships, of relationships, and the importance of those was impressed upon me just if for nothing more because of my circumstances when I was a very, very young man. I've been fascinated with travel pretty much the whole of my life. I literally have traveled pretty much the whole of the world. There's only a few continents that I've not had the chance to visit, Antarctica being one. I've been to all 50 states. I completed that about 5 years ago, visiting all 50 states. I've lived in 11 states. I have a deep love and passion for travel, and that has taught me a lot, probably more than education has done for me, has been physically traveling by way of learning how different people in parts of the world live, what they aspire to, and also the commonality of man and mankind, and that from our end of the desire to be successful financially, desire to be successful as far as building a name for yourself and a reputation for yourself, that in other parts of the world that I've traveled to, that I find that other people a lot of times have that same aspiration and desire. Education has been important to me throughout the whole of my life, but I had a really hard time when I was younger. As far as like traditional education is concerned, I am severely ADHD, and I have to work to like focus consistently to be able to achieve different tasks. So, and then I had dyslexia as a young person as well. So throughout the course of my life, I actually ended up dropping out of high school 3 different times, would re-enroll. And finally, after the last time, my senior year in high school, just kind of made the decision not to go back to it. So I've always worked when I was younger, and either dropping out of high school or different points along the way. I kind of gravitate toward different jobs. I've hustled the whole of my life, starting from 5 years old when I first found commissionable employment, taking bottles for my family and then other people in my neighborhood to the store and getting a deposit return for it. Or 11 and 12 years old when I would go out and develop a lawnmower cutting service for neighbors, and then repairing bicycles when I was about 13 years old. So I've been a hustler the whole of my life. I've always wanted things, and so for me, the one way that I found to be able to get things was to apply myself. So I've been very diligent in application, and when I was young as well, I realized that there were certain jobs I could do by way of cutting people's yards by myself, but then I got cousins and friends to help me for bigger projects, and the bigger projects I did, I made more money. So I've always been thoughtful of being an entrepreneur and figuring out ways to use other people's resources to help me actually achieve more than I could do by just doing things myself. In addition to that, one of the other things that I've done throughout the course of my whole life, and now I would say my career, is volunteering. And that has been one of the most consistent things throughout the whole of my life that I learned to do when I was a child, originally through encouragement from my mother. And then as I got older, I just realized that I just felt better doing it by way of helping people, by way of making a difference for whatever the circumstances was or wherever it was that I was, by volunteering and giving of myself. That has probably been one of the most enduring and one of the most helpful things that I've achieved, that I've done over the course of the whole of my life. And as I got older and became more successful, in particular financially, and realized that my time was so critically important to me, it became a little bit harder. And there was a period where I probably started to just make donations financially to different things because my time was so much more challenged. When I developed a family, started having kids with my wife, and my time became more precious. But then I realized that I felt better when I interacted with people, in particular young people, and particularly young people of color, to share of myself and give of myself, and not just separate myself to say, oh, I've achieved a level of success financially, and therefore I'm just going to give money to things, versus actually putting my time into them as well. So when I actually became financially successful, I realized that I should give both my time and my finances to help others, and not just kind of keep things for myself. I moved around a lot when I was younger, and there was a period of time where some stretches of time where I would live in 3 or 4 different states over the course of 1 year. And once again, like travel fascinated me, but at the same time, it was kind of like I was a rolling stone to some degree, in a spirit that needed to just get different places and see different things. I started to settle down. I ended up going to junior college in Pittsburgh, and that was from around 1979 to 1982. I lived in DC in between 82 to 84, and got a chance to first kind of taste politics. And that was when Mayor Barry was a lot younger and pretty active. And I dug in. This was the pre-crack thing, which kind of went worldwide. But one of the things that most Black people in DC realized about Mayor Barry was Mayor Barry loved Black people. And as a mayor, probably did more for African-American young people with the summer youth job programs that he set up. And then as a businessman, he made very clear and put into law in a lot of the different council initiatives that when things went on in the city of DC, that Black entrepreneurs and Black business got a chance to have a fair share. So most of the things, they got a minimum of 10%, which may not sound like a lot, but it is depending on the size of the deal. And so like I was 22 to 24 years old. I got a chance to learn some things from him as a young person. I started DJing in junior college at Pittsburgh. I did a lot of parties. I ended up DJing a lot of Mayor Barry's events when I lived in DC. And then I went to college at Temple University. And that was one of the real kind of life-changing pieces for me at Temple, where I really got focused for the first time. And they had a 24-hour jazz radio station. I was pretty involved in that, and ended up, when I was at Temple, actually the first time I started producing concerts. And then concert production led to festival productions. And after Temple, I lived in Atlanta for a quick year. And then I moved to Miami Beach. This was in the end of 1988. And I worked with an actor named Philip Michael Thomas, who I had known from when I was a kid in California. And Philip was a big influence on my life. I learned a lot under him. And over the course of my life, I've had a lot of different mentors who helped me a lot and shared their life stories with me and shared their lessons with me. There have been a number of notable people, but Philip was certainly one of them. And helped me, encouraged me to start my own business. At the time, I kind of thought life was all of that. It was the last couple of years of Miami Vice. So all the pretty girls, pretty clubs, fun nights. Miami was blossoming at the time, just kind of coming into its own. I had a great time there, but Philip pushed me to incorporate my own business. And he gave me his accountant and his attorney and pretty much said to me, like, you have to do this. If you don't come back out on the set anymore. Like, you need to focus and kind of get your life together. So it was a wake-up call for me, a great wake-up call. And I went back to something I knew really, really well. And by way of encouragement, if there's some tidbits I'm gonna drop for each of you along the way, is in basketball, but also apply this to a whole of your life, figure out one or two things that you can do very well, and then really commit yourself to practice and to the discipline of, once you figure out what it is that you do well, over-index on it and really, 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 really push to do it. So Ray Allen, who I've met on a number of different occasions and have a lot of admiration for, many of you may not realize that over the course of his career, Ray would actually get a minimum of 1,000 shots a day in. And he would go open most gyms that he had access to, from high school to college, throughout the whole of his pro career. Everybody noted that that was actually one of the greatest things about him was his work ethic. And he would literally, days on working or days off, Ray had a minimum of 1,000 shots a day. Some days got as many as a couple thousand shots in. And so when game time and game situations came around, he had a very solid sense of confidence about himself because he knew how much work he put in to become great. So I loved music, and being a music producer and a concert and festival promoter was something I loved because of just my love for music. So I started out doing jazz festivals. And when I was in Miami, the first big major international gig I got was went down to the country or island of Aruba and started producing their music festival. I got the gig in '89, and I produced the 90 to 92 Aruba Jazz and Latin Music Festivals. I didn't know much about Latin music at the time. I was a quick study on it, and I produced an international music festival at 30 years old. And I did that festival for 3 years. While I was in Aruba, I started to produce a festival in Amsterdam, then actually started touring musicians around Europe which was just a great opportunity for me. And just to remind everybody again, I was born in Compton, California in 1960. Coming up, there's no way that anybody who was born into my neighborhood in Compton would have ever had the thought that they could end up traveling around Europe with very famous musicians going from Holland to Monaco to France, the south of France, to Italy, the Italian Riviera, Switzerland, all the different places I ended up going. It would have been absolutely positively unheard of for someone born in Compton to actually be traveling to these different locations. So I early on did festivals. I ended up producing a festival in Amsterdam. I then started to produce other festivals throughout the Caribbean. In Barbados, in St. Lucia, I did a festival there for 24 years. Ended up doing one in Jamaica for 13 years. Produced festivals in Anguilla, Turks and Caicos, Bermuda, Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Martin. And I toured a lot of musicians throughout the whole of the Caribbean, and then expanded the production to South Africa, to Morocco, to Ghana, to Iceland, and built a very, very solid promotion company which produced festivals around the whole of the world. In 1991, I met Bob Johnson and the crew from BET and ended up developing a relationship with them originally from 1991 to 98. BET was my client, and I produced a number of events for them and opened a lot of doors for BET, and it really helped me and my business grow. In 99, I was offered an opportunity to come aboard and become general manager of BET Jazz, which was BET's second network. Ended up morphing to BETJ, then Centric, and then we developed some smaller channels, BET Hip Hop, BET Gospel, and I ran those as well. In 92, the second, Philip Michael Thomas was an early mentor to me. In 92, I met Harry Belafonte, who is I would hope that each of you on the phone know who Harry Belafonte is, but he is an incredible human being beyond anything and everything that's been written about him. He was one of the early people to break out for singing, for film, for television, for activism. And he and Dr. Martin Luther King were best friends. And Harry raised a lot of money for the movement, the civil rights movement, and became just an incredible activist in his own right, not just in the United States, but worldwide. And he's been one of the most enduring influences on my life. So relationships have been key to me. That has been probably one of the greatest successes that I've had throughout the whole of my life, have been the friendships that I've been able to develop. And what that has been done for me just from a learning perspective, but learning, teaching, friendships, the doors that my friends have been able to open to me have been nothing short of incredible. Back in the early 90s, when I was producing a number of events, I met my wife, and she's from Kingston, Jamaica. Her name is Rachel. She was on BET for about 10 years. She did a number of different shows on BET, Caribbean Rhythms, Planet Groove, and another show called Live from LA. We now have 3 children. I have a 19-year-old daughter and twins that are 16, a boy and a girl. And that's like one of the true anchors of my life, and one of the most important things to me is my family. While I was at BET, I grew a lot as a professional. BET was bought by a company called Viacom back in 2001. That ended up taking me from not just being an executive at an African-American media agency, but also in Play Now, to a company which had a worldwide brand, MTV, VH1, Comedy Central, TV Land, Nickelodeon. It's a multi-billion-dollar company, CBS, Paramount Parks, Paramount Pictures. In the Viacom system, I got a chance to go from being a kind of like, sometimes you can grow and get to something, and in the Black world, BET was everything. And now suddenly BET is owned by a multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporation. And I got a chance to blossom inside of that and build my relationships, not just in the Black world, but just in the whole big corporate world as well. So I developed a number of friendships across a number of different companies inside of Viacom. And after being a part of the Viacom family for 5 years, I ended up getting a position called chairman of the Viacom Marketing Council. And from that position, I ended up reporting to the chief operating officer of Viacom. And I had a dotted line to the CEO of Viacom. And I really, really learned a lot about how the corporate world works And that has been just a great blessing to me, a marvelous learning experience. And from that, and I'll speak to it a bit, that's when I really, like, my mind really opened up. I saw how America works. I saw how the world works. And a lot of the things that are helping me now in my consulting business, I learned and had just an incredible eye view of a perch to really, really see how the world works on a much broader perspective. Inside of my BET experience back in 2005, I was introduced to the Learner family. And one of the questions that I'm asked pretty much wherever I speak is always, well, how did you get the opportunity to actually become a partner in an ownership group of a baseball team? And I kind of smile within myself because the answer is back to something that I've given to you, each of you brothers along the way, is relationships. Relationships can open a multitude of different doors for you if you are an open-minded, positive person. If from a friendship perspective, you treat other people like you would like to be treated yourself. And you are the friend to others that you would want them to be to you from a friend perspective. And you can think about that each and every day because you can meet a whole load of different people over the course of your life. But if you take the time to be the friend to other people that you like to be, that you'd like somebody to be the friend to you, there's no measure that could possibly be given to that at all, ever, by way of you being the friend to other people that you like to have to yourself. So my dentist, Dr. Ronnie Rosenberg, was the one who introduced me to Mark Lerner and Ed Cohen of the Lerner family. And to give you a little background on the Washington Nationals, the 2019 World Series, current World Series champions, they were the former Montreal Expos, which was a expansion team in Canada, which I think they started in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken. The Expos came around in the 70s. So the Expos ended up going bankrupt as a franchise for a wide array of different reasons. And Major League Baseball took over the Expos in receivership. They swapped out, they took over the ownership of the team, and then they gave the guy who owned it the ownership of the Miami Marlins, or the Florida Marlins. They then shopped the team to Sacramento, California, Portland, Oregon, Las Vegas, Jacksonville, Florida, and Northern Virginia. And the city of DC at the time, Tony Williams, who was mayor and city council, said, we'd like to have baseball come back to Washington. And they ended up, said they'd put up a $650 million bond to build the stadium, which is now over in Southwest DC Nationals Park, but with the caveat that it had to have significant minority participation, which then opened up doors for Black people of means to have the opportunity to buy into a baseball team. So originally there were 13 teams vying for the ownership. Then it cut down to 8, or groups, I should say. Groups cut down to 8, then it cut down to 4. And each of the groups were kind of bringing in important minorities in the city of DC, or the Metro DMV area. And one of the groups that most people thought was going to win the opportunity or win the bid had Colin Powell, had Vernon Jordan. And Vernon Jordan, who's one of the top attorneys of all time, was Bill Clinton's best friend during his 8-year run in the White House, pretty prominent African-American attorney. It had Pat Swigert at the time, who was president of Howard University, another brother named Franklin Raines, who was chairman of Fannie Mae, and most people thought that group was going to be the one to actually get it. Our group emerged with the Lerner family, and we took over ownership of the Washington Nationals baseball team in early 2006, and we've had a pretty successful run with it. So I've been a partner with the Nationals, and in addition to it, from a volunteer perspective, I started serving. The United States Congress has one official charity for young people called the U.S. Congressional Award, and it's Congress's charity for young people. And I've been on the board since 2003. I became chairman in 2007. And with that, I've grown the organization, the charity, to, when I started, it was roughly 20,000 young people in the program. And now we're up to over 54,000 young people in the program. The Congressional Award has 4 major components to it. There's a goal-setting personal development side. There's a physical fitness component. There's an outward bound travel component. And then there's volunteerism and civic duty. So I love each of you. You guys are in the age that it's from age 14 to 24. and you earn a congressional medal. You earn it through those 4 areas. So if you get a chance to look it up, it's called congressionalaward.org. It's on Instagram, it's on Twitter, it's got its own website, so it's congressionalaward.org. And if anybody wants to join on this team, I'd be glad. It's a $25 entry fee. I'd be glad to cover your entry fee for you. All you got to do is use my name. And it's actually helped a wide array of young people benefit in just a multitude of different ways. And from my end, from a voluntary perspective, I've actually, as I said, been a part of it for 17 years now. I've raised millions of dollars for it. But the reason why I do it is I've seen it change young people's lives in a very, very meaningful and consistent way. I left BET about 4 years ago after having a great run there as an executive. It was 18 years as an executive and 6 years as a consultant. And it was just a magnificent, 8 years as a consultant, magnificent career. I was growing time-wise. I got into what I thought was the highest rank that I was probably going to achieve there as an executive. And I was ready to become an entrepreneur again. And I loved my time while I was there. I had a great, wonderful career, and I've enjoyed myself even as much or more so now on the other side of it, running my own business again. I bought into a media agency out of Atlanta called Liquid Soul Media. Right after I bought into it, one of their clients was Disney, and they broke the movie Black Panther. And I was really proud to be a part of that campaign and be a part of a company that achieved something that had not been done with a film before. It said all type of box office records. I think now it's in the top 3 box office films of all time. It was the first African-American film to really, truly cross over into general market. And if I could just get a wave on the phone from you guys, anybody who saw Black Panther? All right, lovely. Did it inspire you? Thumbs up or inspiration? Okay, lovely. So I was a part of that. And I literally got lucky to buy into a company that literally as soon as I got in there in the door, they got that. And the Black Panther project was interesting because in as much as you look at it now and how successful it was, but at the time it was a risk to actually participate with something like that, much like sports teams are. When we took over the Washington Nationals, we were in last place. And the first year they came to DC, they actually had a pretty decent run. And up until a little bit past the All-Star break, they were flirting with actually making the playoffs, which is pretty incredible for a team which had been bankrupt and it was in last place. Since we've owned the team, we've had 4 division titles, 2012, 2013, then 2016 and 2017 division titles. And then last year, we did a feat that had never been achieved before in sports. For as far behind we were 12 games under 500 when the team clicked. We were 12 and 31 when the team clicked. 19 to 31 team clicked. And we went on a run and then ended up achieving in the playoffs something that had never been done before for a team to win every game on the road during the World Series. And it was beyond emotional for us. Along the way, we exercised some demons. The 4 division titles that we won, 2 of them, we had the best record in all of baseball, only to get into the playoffs and lose in the first round. Losing absolutely sucks. It's overwhelmingly, I won't curse, but I use a word that starts with an F on my feeling about losing. I absolutely hate to lose. And in as much as I love to win, I would probably say that hating to lose is probably as much a driver for me than anything else. I truly hate losing. I hate losing. And I mentioned that we played basketball on Sundays at my house. The last 2 weeks, I was 4-0 each day. We go to 11, as I mentioned. 2 games, we won 11-10, 1 game 11-7, 1 game 11-8. I can tell you this season, since I've been playing basketball again, the first week out, I was 3-1. The next week, I was 4-2. My record for the year is 15-3. 2 of the losses that we had, we lost from an 11-10 or 11-9, and I hate losing. The one game we lost, we just got blown out, and we lost 12-4. Later in the day, we beat the same team that beat us 12-4, 11-4, came back and beat them 11-4. So I hope that each of you listening to me today, if I can, whatever the things that I can pass on to you, it is, I hope each of you develop an absolute positive hate of losing. where winning feels amazing. And I love to win, but more so than winning, I hate to lose. And I will sacrifice my body. I will put every single effort into every single thing that I do to not lose. The other part for us, we have a lot of guys that come over and play. So when you lose, you got to sit till you get back out in the court. And I hate it. I hate it. So I play every single possession. Because the winner keeps the ball in our game. If you shot, you don't turn it over to the loser, and there's no soft calls. So I've seen teams at any given point be a 5-0, 8-0. I've actually come back from a 8-1 and 10-2 deficit and win a game 11-10 on multiple occasions, despite the other team having 9-0, 8-0, 7-0, 10-0, 10-1, 10-2, and come back and win. Because I don't accept the fact that just because somebody's ahead of me that they can beat me or they're going to win that game, because I'm going to play every single possession. I'm going to be screaming at the people on my team to give a better effort. I don't care if we're up, whatever the score is, it doesn't make a difference. Any of you hear the comedian Bill Bellamy? Anybody know that name at all? Comedian? Wave, yes, no? Okay, yes, you know. So Bill is a good friend of mine. Pretty amazing comedian, very successful comedian. He plays basketball, and I have a lot of celebrity friends who play in celebrity games. And the last time Bill was in town in November of last year, my wife and I went to the show, and in his dressing room, as comedians do, they tell all kind of stories. So one of the stories he told was he brings a crew of guys in to play, and they come over. It's a 3-on-3. So one Sunday in the winter, we had beaten them 11-0, 12-0. And the third game we were playing them. So you win 2 games, you sit a game. Third game we were playing them at 8-0. He scored a point, and I started screaming at one of the guys on my team because it was a soft play, and he just let him have a layup and didn't contest it. So Bill's joke was, like, man, we got beat 11-0, 12-0. They're stopping us, killing us, and Paxton screaming at somebody because at 8-0 for the third game, like, I scored a point. And he said, I'm thinking to myself, damn, Paxton, can I score 1 point? Well, every game I play, I want to beat the team 11-0. Like, every single game I play, I don't want you to score a point. I'm not going to give you one free possession. You're going to have to beat me and beat the team that I'm playing on. If anybody on my team is not giving every single effort for every single possession that's played, I'm going to be screaming at them hard. And there's nothing soft that's going to go on about anything for any game that I play. I feel the same way about life. I'm competitive about it. When it comes time to have a team of people who are with me to work with me for goals, I'm going to give them my passion. I want to win. I now, in the consulting work I do, we bid on different projects. And so for my teammates, when I'm coming in with a deck or a presentation, I want it to be flawless. When we're presenting, I want it to be very well rehearsed, very well thought out. I want to think about the questions that my potential client is going to ask me before we get into a presentation. And I want it to be very, very well disciplined, creative, beautiful decks, everything that's a part of it. And to me, like, the whole team is committed to what the effort is. So I want to win as well. My passion for winning is in business, just like it is in sports, just like it is in any given thing I've put into my life. And once again, the hate to lose. On the professional side, again, the Nationals this year, we exercised something for the city of DC that had been sitting there for a long time, that the teams in DC are good enough to get to the playoffs, but we can never win. Ryan Zimmerman, who came in, he was our first draft pick when we got the team back in 2005. Ryan was an all-star player, all-college player in the it was UVA, so it would be the ACC. Had a lot of recognition coming into it. He was our first pick. Ryan, literally on the field, he and I looking at each other because we had been there since the beginning with each other, crying, and like in tears, saying to me, "Man, when we beat the Milwaukee Brewers for that wild card playoff game," saying to me, "We finally got one thing off of our back." That was the first elimination game that the Washington Nationals had won. When we got into the playoffs each year, we lost in Washington, D.C. That was so crushing to see the Chicago Cubs, to see the Los Angeles Dodgers and the St. Louis Cardinals celebrate on our field. and seeing the stage pull out and them go up on the stage and get the different trophies that have happened, and just like to somebody else dancing and celebrating on your field is crushing. I would watch the end of each of them because I wanted to remember what it felt like to lose and what it felt like to see somebody else celebrate on our field. When we beat the Dodgers this year in LA, and I'm from Los Angeles, but clearly I'm a Nationals fan. I like the Dodgers, and I know the owners of the Dodgers. I know Magic. I know Stan Kasten. He was our original partner for 5 years. But it's like, to me, like how I felt to finally see us celebrating on somebody else's field. It felt marvelous. It's like the joy I had from like seeing them laugh and joke and just high five and dap and everything like that, and then pop champagne on our field. I hated it. I truly hated it. So for us to finally excise those demons, to me, was pretty incredible. And I want more. It was like, to me, there was nothing as good as that. I apologize for not bringing my ring into my office today. When I hope to someday come to one of you guys' practice, and I'll bring my World Series ring in with me. There's nothing in the world that feels like that. It's pretty incredible, and it's something I would treasure the whole of my life. I'll tell a couple more stories before I wrap down, and one is I trust that everybody on this call knows who Bill Russell is. Okay, all right. So I was born in Los Angeles, so I'm a Lakers fan. In the 60s, the Celtics actually beat the Lakers 6 times in that 60s run. 6 times, 6 different times. At one point, it was 5 in a row that the Celtics beat us. So the reason, like, you'll hear like the passion, and it's a broken record, I admit it, on the whole thing, Behave and Lose, because I saw as a kid growing up, the Celtics beat us every year. It was finally until Magic Johnson came around that we actually beat the Celtics. And the first time out, they beat us. And the second time out, we beat them, and we beat them in Boston. And there was nothing in the world like beating the Celtics in Boston. The Lakers never beat Bill Russell. Bill Russell is the greatest winner in the history of organized sports. He won 9 championships in a row from when he came into the league in 1956. He won 9 championships in a row. Then they lost 2 games, 2 championships. And then he won the final 2 championships as a player coach, the first and only player coach to ever win championships. One night, I was at a dinner, and I got a chance to sit next to Bill Russell. This was back in 2000 and 2009. And I got a chance to sit next to him at a dinner. I had admired Bill Russell for not just being a basketball player, but he was an activist. And there's a number of really great documentaries. There's a number of on Bill Russell's life. There's another one that you should take the time to look at on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's life, which was pretty amazing. And then there's another one, just to veer a little further, that I really encourage each of you to look at. It's on HBO. It's called King in the Wilderness, on Dr. King's life, which is pretty incredible. This was specific to the last 3 years of his life. Back to Bill Russell, who was an activist. And when I say an activist, in the 1960s, when, like what you're seeing now with Colin Kaepernick and his life, and what's happening now spilling out, Bill Russell, Muhammad Ali, was that back 40 years ago, when so he won the 56 Olympics. And then when he went into the pros, high school teams to win a state championship. And he said his coach told him that when they played, they had to beat the opponents by 15 to 20 points. And the reason they had to win that by that many points if it was about fouls going your particular way, they weren't getting the calls at all. So they had to win by wide margins to be a winner. When he got to the pros, he said, Paxton, what can't be debated? So I'm like, wow, what can't be debated? I was like, I don't know, tell me what can't be debated. He said, a fact. A fact can't be debated. So he said, I wanted to achieve something that nobody had achieved. Championships than anybody ever had before me or would that came after me. And if you think about that, that man achieved it. So for each of you, I imagine most of you guys saw The Last Dance come on, right? Okay. So everybody says Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player ever. So that's up for debate. Michael Jordan won 6 championships. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar won 6 championships. Kareem had more accolades over the course of his career. Kareem is the greatest scorer, has the most points scored over the course of his career, more rebounds than Michael, and was the most dominant player of his era. That's Kareem. I grew up watching Kareem. Michael Jordan, I'm actually a year older than Michael Jordan. I love Michael. I have a friendship with him. One of my best friends is chairman of Jordan, started the Jordan brand at Nike. I've had a long relationship with Michael, but I would be a part of the debate, who's greater as a winner, as an athlete, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Michael Jordan. Well, Bill Russell said, I knew all that would, like, there'd be debates throughout time as to who is the greatest player, but I want to achieve something that had not been done. Bill Russell won 9 championships in a row. Michael Jordan won three-peats twice. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar won a 3-peat or 2-peat with Magic. He won 5 with the Lakers and 1 with the Milwaukee Bucks. Amazing career. Bill Russell won 9 championships in a row. The 10th year, this man was about 84 years old at the time. And he turned to me, and with the same fire and passion in his eyes, he said, if I had gotten not injured in my 10th season against the Hawks, we would have won that championship. He said, I went out, and as soon as I went out with an injury, we lost. Straight up, just folded. Then the next year, he played against Wilt Chamberlain's Sixers team. He's like, and they beat us, straight up beat us. Red Auerbach retires. Bill Russell then wins the last 2 championships of his career as player coach. Amazing. And then the last thing I'll say before any questions, and I hope I've stirred some interest in life and a wide array of different things for you. The last thing I would say is, as we're dealing with the COVID-19 timeframe, is one, be healthy and know that it might not just be you. You could be asymptomatic, and that if you're asymptomatic, you're not showing any symptoms from the virus yourself, but you could pass it on to people in your family or your teammates. So please pay attention and wear the mask, wash your hands, try not to touch your face, your nose, your eyes. I've seen different studies that the average person touches their face about 300 times a day. So be mindful of that. On the heels of that, George Floyd. So when I was a kid in Los Angeles, I remember the first Watts riots, and I was terrified because you were told if you went outside, you could get shot. So like my parents would always, don't even go near the windows, don't get near the door, stay in the back of the house. And it was literally terror because there were tanks on the streets of Los Angeles. Left a strong impression on me. I feared police officers as a kid because a number of my friends got beat by cops. And when I was coming up, a lot of times black cops are just as bad as white cops because it almost felt like they wanted to prove to themselves or prove to the other cops that they weren't soft on black kids. And you may remember when George Floyd, when the knee went on that man's neck, there was a black cop that was there who was a part of the other 2. It was a black cop, a white cop, and an Asian cop. And all of them participated. When you first saw George Floyd, the knee on his neck, you couldn't see that there was actually 2 other officers behind him. There was an Asian cop that was waving people off and put his hand by his gun a number of different times to keep people back. But there was 2 other cops that were kneeling on that you couldn't see in the first scene. One of them was black. So I had an aversion of police officers. And over the course of my life, I've had a number of different incidents with them. Like even to now, like saying to me, nice car, when they pull me over. And different things I've dealt with them. What I say to young brothers in particular, and I truly hope that this like sinks in, if you get stopped, keep your hands on the steering wheel. Do not take them off the steering wheel, and be as courteous as possible and give them no reason to fuck with you. Give them no opportunity to have an opportunity to attempt to pull you out of the vehicle or to put their hand on their gun. Like I've been stopped as many times as anybody else. I keep my hands on the steering wheel. I say, yes, officer, no officer, whatever else it happens to be. And when they ask me to get my driver's license out, I say to them, please note that my seatbelt is on. And like, they're like, okay, I see your seat. I'm like, great. I want you to know my seatbelt's on. I'm going to unbuckle the seatbelt with my right hand. I'm then going to put my left hand in my back left pocket and pull my license out. I'm going to give you my driver's license. And then with my right hand, I'm going to reach into my glove box and give you my registration and insurance card. And many times I've said, well, you know, why are you telling me all this? Because I don't want any surprises. I don't want any surprises to come out of this exchange at all. I'm going to be courteous and respectful to you. I'm going to give you exactly what you asked me for, and we're going to get through this. So do not let your ego get involved to feel that there's a need in any way, shape, or form to get into an argument with a cop. If he says something smart to you, put it aside. Put it aside. I'll veer by saying Dusty Baker, who was the manager of the Nationals for 2 years, a good friend of mine and a big brother. I would sit in the manager's office with him and listen to stories from other cats, older baseball players come in and talk about what it was to be black when they first broke into the leagues. They couldn't, when they were in Florida or Arizona, wherever else it is, they couldn't stay in the same hotels that their white teammates were staying in. This is in the 60s. They could not stay in the same hotels. Most of them told me that it was, they would find homes either in like just to rent a room in somebody's house, or many of them slept in funeral parlors. I hope you heard that. Many of them slept in funeral parlors with dead bodies in a funeral parlor, because that's where the only place that can actually get extra room. So like black funeral parlors in the South would rent rooms in Florida to baseball players who would come down there for spring training. There's no part of any of that any of you on the phone are old enough to even begin to think about the level of pain and horror that them brothers went through to play pro sports or college sports that any of you will have to face in your lifetime. So when you get stopped by a police officer, know that many brothers and sisters for years and decades ahead of you were stopped by them and harassed and called nigger and a wide array of different things I don't even need to go into on this call today, but they were called that and they had to get through it. Or many of us wouldn't be here today. So I'm asking you to, should you ever get stopped by a cop, put your ego aside, be as respectful and courteous as possible, and just take it. Because there's no victory in you standing up for yourself and like, I'm gonna be a man and get through this and somebody's not gonna disrespect me and your family's gonna be sad on the other side of it. There's too many young brothers that are killed wrongfully. There's an article in the Washington Post going back to 2015, like tracing that we get killed 3 to 1. We get killed 3 to 1 against police issues over white men, and we're 12% of the population. It's worth reading. If you Google Washington Post, black men killed, the article will come up. So don't let your ego get involved in it and get through the exchange on the other side of it. You can have your day in court, because that's what I do. Anytime I'm stopped for it, like too recently, I didn't put on my blinker for a right turn. That's bullshit. I did, but it's not worth me arguing with the cop, and he knew he couldn't hold up in court, so it didn't go anywhere. So I can't stress that enough. So my life has been a testament that you can overcome obstacles and issues. I challenge each of you to read Think and Grow Rich. It's a difficult book to read, but there's nothing like it by way of the success secrets that I've shared in it. I came from a My parents, my mother had a 10th grade education. My father had an 8th grade education. They raised up a family that all of us have gotten college degrees, and learning has been an important part in my life. But I did it, and I overcame a wide array of different obstacles. And now, in addition to having a beautiful family, multitude of friends throughout the whole of the world, I've become a part of a group that became World Series champion, and I've achieved many of the goals that I had in my life. And I thank each of you for the time that you've given me to share my story, and open to questions if we have time.
I have a quick question. Isaac Suffering here. For someone who's had so much success, considering, you know, where you came from, how you grew up, and just your background, and now, you know, you're an entrepreneur, you've tapped into so many different things professionally. You owned a minority in the Nationals, so you know, you're very successful. Other than, you know, things when it comes to being financially stable, you know, I'm pretty sure you're living very comfortably. What is important to you? Because I see a lot of people, a lot of successful people, as they actually experience that success, and they're blessed enough to be very financially sound, they tend to talk about how money isn't everything. Money isn't this, money isn't that. That's not what's most important. So on a personal, you know, on a personal level, if, you know, when you're really reflecting on what's important to you, what are a few things that you would say besides money and success in the business world? What else is important to you?
So most notably, literally, my mental attitude, and that I learned this from Napoleon Hill. Your mental attitude is to me, candidly, it's the most important thing that you have. It's like, you can't control the weather. You know, genetically, my father and my father, and then my mother's mother both had diabetes. It's unfortunately, it's one of those things that over indexes toward Black people, and we get diabetes. And diabetes is a horrible disease. It's like, you can't process sugar like everybody else. That's genetic. There's nothing I can do about that except now, like, keep my sugar down. So, like, don't eat so much sugar. Like, that's, you know, like, literally, my father lost 2 toes on his foot. And my grandmother died from it. My father ended up dying from complications from diabetes. That's genetically something that's in my blood. I can't do anything about that other than trying to keep my sugar intake down. And also your weight. You have to control your weight. It is one of the #1 killers of Black people in the United States is diabetes. Diabetes, high blood pressure. It reflects itself in strokes and a wide array of other things, but diabetes and high blood pressure are like right up in the top 5 for killers of Black people. My mental attitude is to do the things that I can. So at the start of it, when Coach asked me the question of how you doing, I've trained myself to say healthy and positive, like healthy and positive. So in Think and Grow Rich, the first one is positive mental attitude. The second one is sound physical health. I'm a beast in the gym. Like, I mean, I welcome each of you to come over and work out with me. So I built a 1,800 square foot gym onto the bottom of my house. I excavated the backyard, built the gym onto my house. And for the past, we've been playing at the pit since 2003. And I have an open bet for anybody who plays ball with me. If they can come inside and do my workout, they got $100. And they don't got to put up no money, just put up the effort. So I'm a pull-up nut. I do like rotations on pull-up bars that I've done as many as 180 over the course of a hit. And I do different things with it. I got a heavy ball of 9 pounds that I put in my feet that I lift up. I do 3 different pull-ups with a 9-pound ball in between my feet. So my health, my health, my attitude, I'm going to outwork you in the gym. I'm going to outwork you on the court. You're better than I am. Most people play better basketball than I do. Most people are better athletes than I am, but you got to beat me. You got to come with it. You got to come with every single thing that you got. And because of your height, your youth, your superior athleticism, you may beat me, but you're going to know you've been in the game. And that's, so for me, it's like my life, like on what's important to me, like I live for basketball on Sunday mornings. From April through September, it's one of the most important things in my life is playing basketball. I love it. Like, I have a passion for the game. So for me, other things that are important in my life: passion, physical fitness, relationships, when I get a gig with clients, I bring all of the people who I know from all around the world to, in my mind, they're all sitting with me at the table. And so all of my friends, my family members, people who love me, people who I've challenged, people I've competed against, all of that comes with me wherever I go. It's like people call it baggage. It could be baggage, but it's also, to me, just mindfulness. So I love history. I love reading about my ancestors. To me, I'm an American. I mentioned earlier that I've visited all 50 states. I got a better understanding of America when I passed through places like Kansas, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Iowa, Wyoming, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine. And so when I sit down to make a presentation, or if I'm competing for something, I'm an American. And as far as race and color is concerned, it's like, fuck you if you think that you're white and you're better than me. I don't give a fuck about that. I really don't. It's like, I understand this country. I was born here. I've lived the whole of my life here, but I've gone to Morocco. I've gone all over Europe. I've gone to South America. I've gone throughout Asia. I've gone throughout Africa. And I'm an American. I'm proud of it. I know it's like, it means a lot of things to a wide array of different people, but I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud to be a Black man. And when I was born, it was colored and Negro. Then it became Black, then it became African-American. So I have like an immense amount of pride for my race. By the way, I was an African-American studies major in college. And a lot of people ask me, like, what did that do for you? It gave me a sense of self, of like knowing that my people were enslaved in this country, but we weren't always slaves. And so my heritage and my understanding of what it is to be a Black man is overwhelmingly important to me. And I couldn't be prouder of it. And I wouldn't want to be anything else. So relationships are of critical importance to me. And yeah, money is it's a part of it. Like if somebody ever tells you like that's not, like they're pulling your leg, it's a big important part. And I've had financial goals the whole of my life. And I wanted to buy a house. I wanted to then own my house and not have the bank own it, but me actually own it. So I've set a lot of goals for myself financially. They're critically important, but by no means is that everything at all. The other things are just as important to me. But finances were very, very, and still are very important to me. Thank you for the question.
Mr.
Baxter, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about how you grew up in Compton and it was hard for you, like all the times you're talking about being scared of the cops and the windows, and you dropped out of school a couple of times. But what pushed you to keep going, to get better, and to become the man you are today?
So when I left to go to academy, and it was called Pine Forge Academy when I was 14 in 1975, it was my first time really being away from my family for that long of a period of time. And there was certainly a lot of like some fear early on that I had to kind of overcome and get past. But I realized that I had to depend on myself. And as much as my mother loved me, and I had brothers and sisters who loved me, that I was on my own feet, and I had to do some things and take responsibility and control of some things for myself. And as I've gotten older, when I talked about like the hate of losing, for me, the fear of failure has been important in my life. Like I don't want to fail. I don't want to fail. So for me, if I'm prepared, if I come to the table, either be it from a physical perspective for a sports game, or when I'm doing a proposal or a presentation, I want to be better prepared than my opponent is. I want to win. And so to me, like thoughtfulness of like bringing it together, thinking of other people. I developed a team of people. I have some people on my team who've been with me for over 20 years, working with me for over 20 years. And like when I talked about being the friend that you want to be, I want to be the boss that I want to work for. I want to be the person who I would want to work for. So when my employees tell me about different issues or different things that they're doing, I want to listen, and I want like help and bring the resources to bear that I possibly can. I want to share, and like my sharing is important to me. I'm being able to help the people who are around me achieve their goals and their successes. And so one, I'd say, is the fear of failure, which has actually been helpful for me. I've turned that into something good. And then in wanting to win, I want the other people, like in my crew, everybody knows, they've heard me say on multiple occasions, I'm not trying to be the only one successful. Like, I want everybody who around me to be successful, and I want all of us to win collectively. So I am the leader. I learned from Dr. Martin Luther King of, when you're successful, share it with others, share the praise with others. And to me, when there's a failure, be the first to accept responsibility for the failure. So, and for me, it's like, if there's a failure, there's got to be some part in my leadership that I missed. And that's who I want to be as a person.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So when you guys hit that 19 and 31 mark, what was the environment like around the whole organization, and like what kept you guys going? And also, what advice would you give us for like when we hit a rough patch during the season for us to like keep going and keep focusing on our end of the year goal?
So one was Davey Martinez as a coach accepted full responsibility. And there was a question, Davey was on Survivor or not. He was able to extend that passion to his team. And but to answer your question, it was pretty miserable. It was very, very miserable. But one of the good things that probably like one of the best things that came out of it, and Ryan Zimmerman said it on multiple occasions, was we were so far behind everybody else, like being 12 games out. That's a lot. Like the turnaround to the course of the season is 12 games out. It was miserable because everybody hates losing and everybody on that team hated losing. But they pulled together and not one person ever publicly made a statement about anybody else. Like all of the press, not one person on the Nationals team in that clubhouse publicly made a criticism of one other player. Somebody made an error in a game. Somebody made like struck out on a pitch they knew they shouldn't have swung at, like a pitch bouncing in the dirt and you're swinging before it hits you, right? But something that came out, and I'm gonna try to. You guys remember who Bryce Harper was? Okay, he was our superstar. He was the best player on the team. He won the MVP a couple years before that, and Bryce was the pretty boy. He's the cat with the hair that was all fluffed up. He got the magazine. He got the endorsements. But Bryce cared about Bryce. He really did. He cared about Bryce. And when people ask me, like, what were your thoughts on it? I say, let me let you know what the players' thoughts were. So, and it would have been the 2018 season, the 2017 season. Bryce Harper got into a fight with a guy named Jonathan Papelbon. Jonathan Papelbon had been an all-star pitcher. He came up with the Boston Red Sox, and when they won the World Series, he was their ace. Then he went to the Phillies. The Phillies are the only team in baseball who we hate. We hate the Phillies. We like literally, truly hate them as an organization. And we hate the Phillies, and they hate us. And the Phillies won the World Series one year, and they were really, really good during the mid 2000s and like early into like maybe the teens, in like 2011, 2010. Their team started to fall apart. Bryce Harper goes up to the Phillies, and he comes to the Nationals. So he came in from the team that we hate, the only team out of all of baseball who we truly hate as an organization. He comes over, he comes to our team, and Jonathan Papelbon criticized Bryce Harper. He said, "You're not running out grounders, and you're not running out pop-outs." You know what those are, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of times, like when the ball pops up, you see the players should be running around the bases. Now, one out of probably every 100 pop-ups, maybe two, right? One or two, the player doesn't catch. The fielder doesn't catch. You could be a second base or third base. Whereas if you're not running them out, the ball will drop and they'll still throw and throw you out. So Papelbon was saying you're setting a horrible example to the other players, the younger players on the team. If they see the superstar loafing, not running out grounders, not running out pop-outs, then they're going to take on that same type of example. So he gets under Bryce Harper's skin. It hits the newspaper. This is before Davey, right? Martinez. So it hits the newspaper. It becomes a big thing. It blows up in the press. Jonathan Papelbon criticizing Bryce Harper, not running out, yada, yada. Bryce gets pissed about it. It's now a public issue. It's no longer private in the clubhouse. Bryce does it again. Papelbon's sitting there, and he says to Bryce, damn it, I told you again, run those fucking pop-outs up. Bryce runs over to him, Papelbon comes out, starts choking it. It was all over ESPN, everything, right? I asked people, in thinking about that, how many players did you see come out of the dugout? And the answer is like, I never thought about it. Well, the answer was none. None of the players came out. You know, you think about your teammates, you guys on the phone with each other. I don't care who it is. Somebody has a new player from outside, a transfer student comes in and chokes your superstar. Everybody on the team's going to be running over to get the guy off him. No one in the Nationals dugout came out to stop Jonathan Papelbon from choking Bryce Harper because they were all fed up with him as well. It was like Bryce was about Bryce. He was about Bryce. His ego was bigger than our whole team put together. So collectively, each of you have to bind with each other and stick with each other through thick and thin, and never, ever, much like I asked you, never, ever to say anything smart to a cop, never let anybody outside your clubhouse know what your feelings are about your teammates unless it's positive. You have to stick together. I don't care what the situation is. You may tell your girlfriend, you may tell a friend who you don't think is going to say anything, but your brothers on that team, you all bond with each other. Any issues that you have stays in the clubhouse, in the locker room, and it don't come outside the locker room. You all have to stick together. That's what we learned how to do last year, was to stick together. There was not one statement ever in the press that came out with one player in the Nationals criticizing somebody else. They all accepted team responsibility. And then, as Ryan Zimmerman said, and the coach said, you go 1-0 every day. You don't like let yourself get behind and saying we got to make up 6 games, 10 games, or whatever. And to me, I boil it down to every possession. And like literally, I mean, it was really funny to hear Bill Bellamy say it, but every game I play, I want to beat you 11-0. I don't want you to score 1 point. And if you beat me, you're going to know that you beat me, that I gave you my best effort because I play every single possession. And that's what you guys have to do. Every possession. Don't take no possessions off. You're up 88-40. I don't care. You play like you're behind. And you beat every game. And you be like Bill Russell, win every game 15 to 20 points and achieve something nobody else achieved. Any other questions? Coach?
Mr. Paxton, this was unbelievable. I think your journey and what you shared with us today is truly inspiring. I know it's inspiring for me. A lot of the same qualities that you talked about in competing in sports and in life are things that we are really trying to carry over to our program, and building that culture of not taking plays off, to compete every single possession, to be mentally engaged every second of every possession, to not give things up easy. All of those lessons are things that our team is learning, and I think we'll have a chance to kind of be a little bit better in those areas this year as opposed to last year. I know some of the guys don't know this, but you've come to several of our games. I saw you at the GW game. I know you were at a couple home games at Howard, and we really appreciate you supporting us and the look. But even more so, this opportunity to get to know you better, know your story, know your journey, and know what you're about, man. This has been great for me, and I think it's been great for our guys. So thank you so much for doing this.
Yes, sir. If you would mind, Coach, let me add a couple last things. The 2009 NBA lockout year, we had Roy Hibbert and Jeff Green come over and play with us throughout the whole summer. And that was coming out of that was Roy. That was Roy's contract year, and he got a max contract that year. He got $135 million at the time. That was a max contract. And when Roy came over to play with us, he didn't win a game till his third game. We beat him 11-3 with the team he had the first game out. We went up 8-0. And he was laughing. He had kind of like a little funny smile on his face when we started to play. We beat him 11-3, he sat. We beat him the next game, was more competitive, like maybe 11-8. And after that, he started to win. But I would come in the gym and work out with Roy afterwards, and he said, man, I respect you guys. He's like, when I first started playing out here, I thought you guys were just kind of like, some cats out here just for fun. He's like, but like you guys wanted to take my head off. One of my boys tried to dunk on him and would have dunked on Roy, but he tried to go back and do a tomahawk and got caught. And Roy got his hands up in time. But if he had just dunked the ball, he would have dunked on Roy. And when he came out of it at the end of that summer, he got the max contract. And he said, I would text him like throughout the series. They took the Heat to 6 games, and they beat the Knicks one year. And there was some really physical games, and like he would say to me, "Hey man, it ain't nothing like the Pit. Like, you know, you guys go as hard as anybody here." And I learned from playing with you guys, like the passion of how you play that game of basketball. And like, to me, for you brothers on the phone, it's like, have passion, like love what you do. And you got to want it better than anybody else. So like when you're playing against other teams, you have to want it worse than them. You have to desire, you have to like, it's like, I want to fucking beat you. I want to beat you. I'm going to beat you. So when I'm like during the week, my workouts during the week, basketball is the easy part. And if you remember, like with Michael and all the other players, when they talk about how their practices were, like the practices are so tough. When you come to game time, game is easy because of how much work you put in the gym, how much work you put in your mind. So when you play the game of basketball, it's easy because physically you're fitter than everybody else. You're stronger than everybody else. And so like, and then when you take that down to every possession, it was funny, but I want to beat you. I don't want you to score a point against me. I want to beat you. I want to take your liver out. I want to beat you. Like, and so that passion, that's what you got to bring to every single game that you play. And by the way, people who are on the bench, your contribution is what you did during the week for practice. Like, that's your contribution. So we had NBA players come with us and play with us for a whole year, and we prepped them when they came back up. Jeff Green, Jeff's had like a 15-year career. When Jeff is home for the summer, he comes over and plays with us. And he comes into my gym and works out with me. So like literally, I mean, I welcome, if you guys want to come over and, you know, you may not be able to play because of different reasons, but our rules or whatever happens to be, but come over and see us play on a Sunday morning. Come over and see us play on a Sunday morning, 9 o'clock. I'll share my address with you guys. Come over and see us play. And then I love to get you guys in the gym with me and let you see what a 59-year-old man, 59, I'll be 60 in November, still does in the gym. So you got to want it worse than everybody else. You got a coach who wants it worse than everybody else. He wants to win. He's incentivized to win. And so that passion needs to carry over to each of you, the passion of winning. And then the last thing is like, just to throw out is thinking of past basketball, like in as much as I love the game. And by the way, I wanted to be the oldest player to play in the NBA. And if Mike Woodson had kept his job with the Knicks, I had a shot, actually. He told me if I could do training camp that he would give me a 10-day contract. And I went to the Knicks training camp, and I could do it. This was like 5 years ago. I was 54 at the time. I could do their training camp. At 54, I could do the Knicks training camp. But Mike ended up losing his job, ended up then going out to LA and being an assistant coach with Doc Rivers. But Mike was a coach of the Knicks, and prior to that, the Atlanta Hawks for a number of years. Think past what you want to do now as well, and as much as you focus every day on what you want to do, but also think about things outside of basketball that you want to do, things in life. And bring that passion that you have in basketball to other things in life. There was a number of things I wanted to achieve over the course of my life. And I've worked on goals are important to me. They still are. They're still really, really important to me. So write some goals out for yourself on what you want to do outside of basketball and think about them. And then don't discount your own dreams. Like, your dreams are important to you. If somebody said to me 30 years ago that I'd be part owner of a baseball team and one day I'd be a part of a World Series celebration, I wouldn't have told them no. It might have been a dream that, it's like, yeah, boy, I'd love to have that one happen. What actually did happen for me, when we did the first press conference with the last place Washington Nationals, at our press conference, May 6, 2006, at that press conference, one of the questions was asked to Mr. Lerner, who's the patriarch of our team. He's 94 now. I said, well, the next time Ted Lerner does an interview, it'll be in the World Series. And sure enough, Ted Lerner didn't do any interviews. He had his sons and his kids do the interviews, but we ended up doing an interview for the World Series. So throw some big dreams out there for yourself outside of basketball. Think about what you want to do in your life. You may want to be a coach. You maybe want to be going to accounting. You may want to own your own business and do a wide array of different entrepreneurial things. Don't think that you can't do it. Don't think that you can't achieve it. Like literally. And so a friend of mine gave me something in 1984 that I've lived with, and that is never say anything about yourself that you would not want to be true. So I hear people say, oh, I'm horrible with names, or I'm bad with directions, or, I don't remember this, I don't remember that. I don't ever say that. Like literally, if I have a cold, I'd say, oh, my body is like a little bit ailed with this cold. But it's like in my mind, I'm never going to concede that. I'm not going to say I'm sick, I'm miserable, I'm tired, I'm this, I'm horrible with names, I'm bad with directions. Don't say anything about yourself that you would not want to be true. So convince yourself you're a winner. I convinced myself back in the winter of 2000 and 2003 that I liked canoeing. And I started going canoeing. I was freezing cold out on the Potomac River. But now, 16 years later, I've been going for canoeing from the Sunday after Thanksgiving through March. I go canoeing on the Potomac River, and I've come to love it because I stopped playing basketball outside. I love outdoor ball. So set some goals for yourself that are unachievable, that may sound unbelievable to be true. Like for me, that I'm gonna have a World Series ring and be a black owner of a baseball team. That like the odds of that were zero. For this kid that you're looking at when I was a kid growing up, zero odds for that to happen. But I'm in the owner's box now. And I have achieved that dream of mine to be owner and to possess a World Series ring. And I do. So set some unbelievable goals for yourself. Love your brothers and your teammates. Give them your heart every single time you go out in the court, and be prepared because you put the work in during the week. So when you come out to the court, it's going to be the easier thing that you do because of the amount of work that you put in. Don't discount your academics. Don't discount your friendships. Believe in your brothers, believe in your coach, and you guys will turn any record around. And should you lose a game, whoever it is that you play, they know they played somebody. They know it because of the effort you put into that game.
Paxton, I have one last question for you. You're a marketing guy. What would it be like if Howard University men's basketball program was the shit?
Incredible. It feels great. There's nothing in the world like winning. I love it. I love it. And from a recruitment perspective, Coach, I'm proud that like most of the guys on the phone were from PG County. Like little known fact, and the NCAA is a client of mine, by the way. I do work for the NCAA. Don Remy, the chief operating officer of the NCAA, and the governmental affairs office here at DC. The number is 14.5% of all the D1 athletes in the United States come from the DMV. It's the highest single ratio of high school players that go play D1, D2 basketball. The DMV is number one. The next highest is Illinois, Ohio, and Indiana is 11%. They're number two. So this region produces more basketball players that go play D1 basketball than any other region in the United States of America, right here in the DMV. So you've done an amazing job of like, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players on your team are from the DMV. That's amazing, right? So for me, for winning, your recruitment begins to tell the story for itself. And that is the key to college basketball is your recruiting. So to me, the greater winning that you have where people want to play for you and they want to come play for Howard's program, or the young men who are on this phone are saying, hey, we love Coach. We love what he's done for this program. That's going to set your recruiting up for the future. And you develop a culture of winning. I've spent time with Mike Krzyzewski. I've gone down to Duke. I think they have an amazing and incredible program. So one of the things in sitting with him last year in September, simple things I learned from him is all the players from their past, they're all a part of the program. They all come back to Duke. And one of the mentors, somebody on the team, a past Duke player is mentoring somebody who's currently playing on the team. He has a thing where all the players on the team have to remember the name of everybody who works in the building. They literally have to remember, so the maintenance person, the janitors, doesn't matter what the job is. If you work in that building, every basketball player on that team has to remember the name of everybody who works in that building, because he wants it to be a full team effort. From like the players are going to pass through the program, but the people who actually work in the facility, they're going to be there. So he throws out challenges to the players on the team. He does things like he leaves a piece of trash somewhere, and then they observe who picks up the paper and who doesn't. And if you pick up the paper, they ask you why you picked up the paper. If you don't pick up the paper, The person says, hey, I didn't leave it on there. They're like, no. It's a team effort. Like everybody picks it up. Your job, you treat this like you treat your home. So like to have that passion there, you will develop something that's never been done before in Washington, D.C. as far as college coaching, because it doesn't exist. So I think you have an opportunity to create a great program. And the young men on this phone today, that's going to be who helps you get there.
Look, man, this has been awesome. And it exceeded my expectations. And this, I am super happy that we had this conversation. I think our guys are, I talk about our guys getting better with these conversations when we have speakers. And I know we got better today, and I think this is going to carry over to the things that we do in the season, but also I think this will carry over to our guys' life as they navigate through their journey. So thank you, Paxton, so much for doing this. This has been great.
My pleasure. Anybody on the phone, you can get my cell and my email from Coach. If I could ever help any of you, I don't offer that lightly. And for people who actually hit me, like, wow, you actually responded to me. You actually hit me back. I'm better on text, so get my contact from Coach. If anybody ever wants to come over and work out with me, come over and shoot around with me. I got a nice court. I'm in Chevy Chase on East West and Connecticut Avenue. And you'd be welcome to come over and hit with me at any given point of the way. Hey, little lady. So please take me up on my offer and give life face with passion every single day. So thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you.